Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install Postgres because you can't really run Postgres without Postgres. Okay, so uh, we're going to go to our search engine and type in Postgres, and up it comes, PostgreSQL.org. We usually just call it Postgres, but it's PostgreSQL. I don't know how you say it. Well, I know how I say it. I say Postgres. Anyway, I have installed this a whole bunch of different ways. If you click download, okay, which is what you want, we want binary packages and we want them for our operating system, in my case, Mac OS. It's very similar for Windows, okay? And under Mac OS, you'll see there's a whole bunch of different ways to install. The interactive installer by Enterprise DB, there's Homebrew, there's an app from the App Store. And I don't know what the best one is. I've tried it in the past and had when Apple does an operating system update, it would break. So it's always kind of an annoyance. But we're setting up something that's intended for a server on your desktop computer, and so necessarily, I mean, I guess it just goes with it that that it will be trouble. But if you're going through this course in a matter of a few days or a few weeks, rather than going over, a long period of time, any of these should work. So I'm going to go with the Interactive Installer by Enterprise DB. So this will set up a database running on our system. It'll also set up PG Admin, which is a great visual tool for logging into it. And we've got a bunch of different versions of Postgres. They seem to come out with a new major version every 6 months or so. So they're on version 12.2 at the time I'm recording this, and they have it available for Mac OS and Windows. So I'm going to go with Mac OS. Although I would say that most of the stuff I'm going to cover in this course was available in Postgres version 9 even. So we don't need to be on version 12. If you're on a system that can't run version 12, you're probably okay. So I download. Download. 160 megabytes. As you can see, I have a good connection. Okay. So I'm now going to close this and run the installer. Yes, I'm sure I want to run it. Okay. Ask you for your password. Okay. So Enterprise DB, I guess, is a company that contributes to Postgres and offers support and services around it. But remember, Postgres is an open source piece of software, so it is totally free of charge. Where will it be installed? Most of these defaults should be okay. We want the server. We want admin. We want command line tools. Stack Builder, I guess it's a thing to add add-ons and things, and I don't know if we need it, but it's a default, so we'll just allow it. Where do you want to store your data? This is kind of important because if you say uninstall Postgres and you want to reinstall it later, if you use the same data folder, I think you'll keep your data. So anyway, create a password for the superuser Postgres. So because we're learning here, I'm going to put a super easy password. I'm going to use pass, but in a real production system, of course, you want something you can remember. What port should it listen on? That's the default, 5432. Locale would be essentially what language, and so English US is probably okay, but I'm just going to go with the default. It says the settings. Okay, and next. And now it's going to install. So there's two main ways that you can interact with a database like Postgres. One is the command line. You can log into it using a program called PSQL. And that's what I like to do, especially if I'm working on a server. So I may not be on my personal computer. I may be connecting sort of remotely. And that's all I have available as a command line. But you can also use a graphical user interface that lets you visualize your tables and the relationships and things, and to write queries in something like a text editor. Oops, I just hit cancel by accident. And that is easier to learn on, and it's easier to do some of the stuff I want to do in these videos, like uploading some fake data to give us something to do exercises on. So PGAdmin comes with this. It's asking me if I want to launch Stack Builder now to download and install extras, and I do not. If you do, it's okay. Just look at what it has to offer and then close it. Okay, so I believe I have now installed Postgres, and I'm going to go to Applications and see if PGAdmin is there. Okay, there's a folder called Postgres 12, and there's PGAdmin 4. Okay, Postgres admin. There was also an option for the SQL shell. I don't know if you noticed that under Postgres. SQL shell PSQL. So that's if we want the command lines, we can get it. I do not want to allow notifications. Here's PGAdmin. Oh, it opens in a web browser. This is new at PGAdmin 4. PGAdmin 3 was a desktop application. Anyway, master password, I'm just going to go with pass again. That's a really terrible idea if this is in any kind of production system, but for our purposes, it's fine. So, servers. Does it see localhost? It does. So PASS again. Okay, so here's my local database. All right, and a lot of information about it. Under databases, we got login and group roles, so of course we can have our users, and that's the user Postgres that we created. Nothing happens if I double click it, okay. Table spaces, I don't think that's relevant to us. And in this you have databases, okay. So throughout this course we're going to create databases. Now, Postgres is a database server, so you can have multiple databases. And it creates one by default called Postgres. Let's go here, let's right click the word databases, and we're going to create a database. And we'll just call this lesson 1. And I'm the owner. You could create a user with your own username if you want, but the default Postgres username is fine. And this is now our lesson 1 database. It has casts, catalogs, event triggers, extensions, foreign data wrappers, languages, schemas. Most of this we don't need, okay, but under schemas, public, tables, this is where we're going to create all our tables. So Postgres, compared to other databases, has this pretty complex hierarchy. We're on the server, under databases, under the database name lesson 1, under schemas, under public, under tables. This is where we have our tables. So let's create a simple table here. Create table. And I'm going to create this as it's a table of tests. That was kind of weird. Owner Postgres, schema public. Most of this stuff you don't need. So it's a very powerful, flexible engine, but most of this stuff you're not going to configure. It's just a table called tests, and it's going to have columns. And where do I add a column? Okay, plus sign. And we're going to give it an ID number. It's going to be an integer. Don't worry if you don't know all of what's going on here. And not null primary key. It is going to be the primary key. I'll create one more, which is some word. And the type is going to be text. And okay, so this is, we'll talk about this in the next lab, but we're creating a table with an ID number and a word as columns in the table. Save. Okay, so now under tables, we see tests. And in fact, under tests, we see the columns and the constraints and other things like this. But let's look at tests here and properties, SQL. This is the SQL code that created the table. And then somewhere around here, we need to get into a SQL console. Query tool, where it says browser, there's a button that says query tool. And this allows us to write queries. So select star from tests. Okay, that is our first query. How do I run it? Where's the run button? They moved it. It's over here. Execute. Okay, and it says ID in Word. I got nothing in there because there's no data in that. Insert into tests. ID Word. Values. 1. Hello. Insert into tests. ID Word. 2. World. So we're going to run these two lines of code here. Okay, and that inserted data. And now run this query again, select star from tests. Oh, I had something go wrong. Oh, these need to be single quotes, not double quotes. Hello. I've been using other databases for too long. So in Postgres, we need single quotes around any kind of a text input. Okay, query returned successfully. Select star from tests. Bam. Okay, so we've got 2 rows in our database, number 1. So this tool, obviously this is not a full introduction to this tool or even to SQL, but you can see we have our database running. We can log into it. We can run a query against it. Using SQL, we can, there's other ways to view the data. I believe if you right-click this, you can view edit data, all rows, and you can just sort of see them like a spreadsheet table. You could probably add another one. Okay, so I can actually add data. So great. So that's our setup. We've got. Okay, leave the site. So we have pgadmin4. In our PostgreSQL, we have pgadmin4. We also have the SQL shell, and that's pretty much what we need to get into it. I open pgadmin4. I'm going to find the database that I created for this particular lesson. Okay. Now it's oh, what's this? New pgadmin4 window. That's new. Okay. Servers, we find our database. In fact, it remembers that we had a database called lesson 1. And we had tables under that, under schemas, public, tables, tests. Okay, and we have a table that we can actually look at. All right, see you in the next video.